Good morning. Happy Thursday to you. It's 10 o'clock. I'm Tim Harris. It's time for 10 with Tim. We go verse by verse through the Word of God every single day, Monday through Friday, Facebook, YouTube. You can join me live at 10, or you can always watch these later. They live forever on the internet, I assume. But today we're in Numbers chapters 34 and 35. We're wrapping up the book of Numbers. And I admit these aren't the most exciting chapters. Chapter 34 reads like the real estate, section of the newspaper, if you've ever read the newspaper. I get it that you skim it, and I encourage you to, because again, you're not going to find your devotional verse probably in these chapters. But at the same time, let's talk about what's there. When I give permission to skim, I think it's okay, but you want to at least read it closely enough so that you know what's there, and you sure don't want to miss any, just nuggets. And there are often just nuggets, just kind of tucked into these chapters. So again, you can skim, but don't fake read. Really read it, but you can read quickly because you're going to get the idea. Chapter 34 describes the boundaries of the promised land. Now, there's several things about this I think are amazing. First off, they're not there yet. They haven't even seen this land, and God is giving here in this section, before they even get there, God has given them it's a map of the future. You know what I mean? It's a map of the future. And I love that. I love that when God keeps his promises to me, that, scripture says he calls things that are not as if they are. God is already in the future, And so in that sense, God is able to, like I say, draw a map of the future, that this is where you will live. This is what I'm giving you. And it's real soil, it's real boundaries, real markers, real geography. Again, so often when God makes a promise to us, we sometimes spiritualize it like it's going to happen in my heart. He's going to give me a promised land in my heart, but I'm still going to be stuck in the dump where I live. No, this is real fulfillment. God is doing exactly what he said he would do, and he's giving them this land. And so for me, these chapters, just the description of the land, how exciting. They've wandered, nearly 40 years in the wilderness for this. And now, you get the first snapshot. My son and daughter-in-law right now are waiting they're going to rent a house, and they're waiting for the house to become available. And just to be able to get pictures of the inside of that house, it's just like, oh my goodness, we're going to be there. It's more real when you get the description and when you can, ever finally see it. And this is a glimpse, it's a description, the boundary lines and all of that. I also, for me, there's just a sense, I know that it's kind of an application, but this chapter reminds me that just boundaries are godly. You could say, oh, we're all God's people. We're all the children of Israel. We'll just share it. We don't need boundaries. We don't need borders. We'll just all go there. We'll just all live together. Everybody live where they want to live. And that's a recipe for, World War IV, right? You just can't do that. In our lives, we need boundaries. In our personal lives, we need boundaries. I need to know where I stop and you start, where my freedom ends at the boundary of your freedom, where my exercise, of my freedom begins to impinge upon your freedom to not have me in your face. Boundaries are good. And so chapter 34 just defines this is where you're all going to live. And notice that the land is assigned. It's not, they don't go out there and have an auction. It's just a sign. God tells everybody where they're going to be, and he sets the boundaries for them. And again, there's healthfulness in boundaries and healthfulness in God ordaining and setting those boundaries for us. At the end of this chapter, you get the leaders who are going to divide the land. Again, each tribe has its own representative in the distribution of the land. And tucked away there, the tribe of Judah, Caleb, son of Jephunneh. That dude is 85 years old now, 85 years old. I think it's just amazing to see his name there. Everybody he ever went to school with is dead. Everybody he ever knew, all of his peers are dead. So for, Joshua and now Moses, everybody else, of his generation, they died in the wilderness. But because Caleb was a man of faith, he is still going to get what God promised. He's 85 and he is right there. He is not a bystander. He didn't retire and now he's, up at Massey Springs sitting in a rocker watching it happen. Caleb's still in there making it happen. And I love that. As an aging man, I love that. Chapter 35 is the distribution of what belongs to the Levites. Now, they don't have land. The tribe of Levi doesn't have the same kinds of inheritance because of their role as the spiritual leaders. And so chapter 35 describes how they will have 48 towns and the surrounding pasture land distributed throughout the territory, throughout all of the tribal portions. And I think that's beautiful. They have this spiritual role, this spiritual responsibility with the people. But notice how they're going to live among the people. You don't just have like a one corner of the country where all the clergy live. No, they are ministry is going to be in the midst of the people. And so the Levites have these 48 towns, and then they have pasture land that's defined. Again, the margin outside is defined. And I think it's just really kind of fantastic, again, that they're going to be distributed, spread out so that the clergy are kind of everywhere. Also with this, part of the Levitical responsibility are these cities of refuge, and there are apparently, I think, 6 of those, 6 cities of refuge, which are a place to go if in any instance of unintentional manslaughter. Now, even this provision for mercy in the context of justice and due process, it still underlines the importance of human life and the significance of blood. Blood pollutes, the land. It stains the land. The blood cries up from the soil, and so it has to be avenged. And so if someone murders another person, that murderer, that their blood must be avenged. And so their next of kin will go after the murderer to go kill him. But now the chapter 35, goes into quite a lot of, different situations where, okay, this is murder. All right, this is not murder. If you drop a piano on somebody's head, it's murder. That's what it says. If you drop a rock on their head, if you hate somebody, this is verse 20. If you hate somebody and you wait in ambush, you jump out with a knife and cut their throat, well, that's murder, If someone hates another person and hits him and beats him with his fist till he dies, well, that's murder. This is all in chapter 35. I'm sorry, it's not funny. Murder's not funny. But yeah, it's just that, if you beat him to death with a broom handle, that's murder. But if you accidentally kill somebody, again, you need an opportunity to tell the story, to state your case. And so you got to find some way to slow down the movement of the blood avenger. And so in this case, the person who accidentally kills somebody must go to a city of refuge. Again, these are Levitical cities. The Levites had this responsibility. But you go to a city of refuge, and there you may stay, and there you are safe until due process. Until the community, until your fault or not at fault can be determined justly. So it's just this beautiful provision of mercy in the context of justice. Now, the one thing about that I found, in a way, it's kind of puzzling, also beautiful. I'm not sure I fully understand the significance, but when you go to a city of refuge, you really must stay there either until your name is cleared, until the avenger is no longer after you, or until the high priest dies. I think that's so interesting. Once the high priest dies, and you're in the city of refuge, you can just go home. All the slates are wiped clean if the high priest dies. And part of me is like, well, why is the high priest? That's such a random thing. Why is the high priest's death a marker for release? And I think there's something gospel behind it. I mean, the death of the high priest. Jesus is our high priest. The death of the high priest is that which, sets the guilty free, or um, uh, blood stains, blood pollutes, of course, but blood also cleanses. And so in the same way that the death of this person has stained and cries out for vengeance, it's the death of the high priest, the blood of the high priest that cancels that, And again, there's something very gospel, something very Jesus about that. In the Old Testament context, there's this way in which the high priest is this intercessor for the people. And once a high priest dies, there is this sort of spiritual reset. And so everything starts clean. And so, again, it's that death of the high priest that allows all of those who have fled for refuge, they can go home and they don't have to fear any sort of punishment or any sort of vengeance at that point. The slate is wiped clean. The death of the high priest sets all the guilty free. And again, I love that there's something gospel about that. We'll finish Numbers tomorrow with chapter 36. And I told you, strangely, that there is this last section of Numbers has this bookend. And once more, we come across the daughters of Zelophehad. And that's the way Numbers ends. So we'll end with the daughters of Zelophehad and talk about the significance of that. But we're finishing Numbers tomorrow. Woo! We're finishing Numbers tomorrow, and we'll talk about what comes next. What comes next is we're so close to finishing the Bible, y'all. We're just cleaning up now. We got some Psalms to finish. We have the book of Amos, and the rest of Revelation. I think there's one more Old Testament book. I'll let you know. I've got records. But anyway, we'll come back to it. I'll let you know what comes next after we finish Numbers tomorrow. So have a good Thursday.